Hello, everyone. Welcome to Michelle and the Money. This is all about your money from consumer to business news in the bi-state. Let's take a look at Capitol Hill right now, where a partial government shutdown is now officially over. President Donald Trump signed a massive funding bill after passing the House on Tuesday. The vote briefly extends the deadline to fund the Department of Homeland Security for 2 weeks. Democrats are demanding changes to immigration enforcement. It's been more than 8 months now since the May 16th tornado touched down in North St. Louis. Additional FEMA funding has been approved to help storm recovery efforts across Missouri and Kansas. Our Mercedes McKay breaks down where that money will go.
We have some good news when it comes to our recovery efforts here in the city of St. Louis from the May 16th tornado. FEMA just approved $23 million to help us out. So $19 million is going to go to the city, $1 million is going to go to the Board of Education, and $3.5 million is actually going to go to St. Louis Public Schools. If you remember, a lot of their schools got a lot of damage from the May 16th tornado, and that ended up costing the district over $77 million.
Boeing is announcing a deal to upgrade the South Korean government's fleet of F-15 fighter jets. Now, according to our partners at the Business Journal, the contract is worth $2.8 billion. The work will be done at Boeing Defense Operations in North St. Louis County and is expected to be complete by the end of 2037. Boeing says the upgrades to the 59 fighter jets will enhance avionics, sensor technology, and weapon systems. Well, let's take a look now at St. Louis Lambert International Airport, where TSA changes are now in full effect. So if you're flying without a real ID, you can expect to be fined. The TSA has started charging travelers $45 to use an alternative identity verification system. This allows passengers to use the alternative ID for a 10-day travel period, and those with passports or DHS trusted traveler cards will not be fined. For the last 2 months, Missourians have stepped up and placed their bets, and the State Gaming Commission says the sports books lost millions of dollars. 5 on Your Side's Holden Kerwicki reports that experts say this likely will not happen again.
Since sports betting went live in the Show Me State December 1st, more than 520,000 people have placed at least one bet.
We think we had people who had established accounts, were familiar with betting, and now that they have that chance to do it from home, from their phones, they're taking advantage of it.
According to the Missouri State Gaming Commission, more than $543 million was bet on sports in the first month. But the sports books lost just under $21 million.
They're not going to lose $20 million in a month ever again. They will probably never have a losing month again.
After poring over the numbers, Bet Missouri editor Jim Tomlin says it's easy to see how the sportsbooks lost money.
It's promotional giveaways that sportsbooks use to obtain and retain customers.
There was a bet that if the Blues record a single shot during the game, it was $50. You would get that for free, essentially.
Since sportsbooks spent $125 million on promotional giveaways, the state of Missouri brought in just over $521,000 in tax revenue.
This never was some giant generation. It's going to education funding. This isn't going to fix all the problems and all that, but it's just money that's either going to Illinois or Kansas or to, Barbados.
However, both Butler and Tomlin believe the state will still take in millions of dollars this year alone.
I don't think it's unreasonable to see somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 million in revenue, which at Missouri's 10% tax rate, that would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million. In taxes in a really good, active month.
And that's $20-30 million that we weren't getting in Missouri. But it's also, that's a drop it's a rounding error for the state budget.
Holden Kerwicki.
One key stat that both Butler and Tomlin are still waiting on is the Illinois betting handle, which will give them a better idea of exactly how much money legal sports gambling in Missouri is taking from Illinois. However, those numbers will not be available until March or April at the very earliest. All right, let's take a live look at Energizer Park right now, which will become the first Olympic venue in St. Louis since the 1904 Summer Games. Organizers say the stadium will host soccer matches as part of the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. Now, it will be called St. Louis Stadium when the preliminary and knockout stage matches are played. It is also one of 7 venues chosen. Of course, Energizer is home of City SC, and the general manager says building the success of this stadium led to this opportunity.
If this stadium wasn't built downtown with the quality that this stadium was built, quality not just in design, but in technology, in sustainability, in atmosphere, and then on top of that, had the fan base show the world what a sports-loving and soccer-loving community this is, we wouldn't be here.
With this big announcement, local leaders believe people from all over the world will be coming to St. Louis. Our Justina Cornell got reaction about this exciting news and takes us back to some St. Louis Olympic history.
I love seeing people's faces when they realize the Olympics were here, and not just that the Olympics were here. The first Olympics in the United States were held here in St. Louis.
This is home to St. Louis's rich history. On display at the Missouri History Museum, the 1904 Olympics in St. Louis. And on Monday, history is made again. For summer 2028, St. Louis's Energizer Park will be a venue for Olympic soccer matches.
We love seeing, especially on game days, home game days, just the amount of people coming in and out of the store to get their gear.
St. Louis apparel company Series 6 has already seen the benefits from soccer fans, partnering with St. Louis City SC. With this announcement, the company hopes new merchandise can be made.
We would be looking forward to being a part of the festivities.
Soccer fans are also buzzing. SCL Santos, a soccer support group of St. Louis City SC, has about 1,000 members from 30 different nationalities.
It's huge, especially I feel like for immigrants, being able to have the Olympic Games here, maybe get the chance to see their national teams. It's going to show the world at St. Louis that is diverse, that is global, and is deeply connected to the beautiful games. So I think that's a win for the city.
These matches mark a major moment, showcasing Olympic competition once again for St. Louis history books.
Energizer Park in St. Louis is ready to host big international games. And I think we deserve it. We have a great history of soccer, and we have a great fan base that deserves to have big matches here hosted in St. Louis.
Again, that was Justina Cornell reporting. Right now, the History Museum is working on an exhibit for the 2028 Olympics. That exhibit will focus on the 1904 St. Louis Olympics and highlight St. Louis Olympians. The Cardinals are finding a new TV home this season. Major League Baseball will now produce and distribute in-market telecasts, replacing the financially strapped FanDuel Sports Network. Games will still be available on cable and satellite. They'll also stream on a new service called Cardinals.tv. Subscriptions go on sale next Tuesday. It costs $20 a month or $100 for the full season. All right, Rock Hill residents have some answers now on the city's plan to fix a pungent smell filling the city since 2021. That smell is coming from the cannabis manufacturer Proper Brands. In a meeting this week, the Board of Aldermen said the company has been promising to fix the smell since it opened, but it hasn't gone away. One resident says the new filters the company installed have not helped, but the company's CEO says he wants to come up with a plan to fix the smell within 90 days.
We're working with them, and they're putting filters in. But then there's a new problem, and the smell comes back, and it keeps coming back.
And I just hope that that these same people can see that we are committed to doing whatever it takes.
The city attorney says the company is violating a city law because the smell has gone past the facility's property line. This could result in the business losing its license, but no action has been taken so far. The city has received 99 complaints from April to December. Schnucks is recalling ground beef at a store in Franklin County. Now, this is for several beef products sold at the Oak Grove Village store in the Sullivan area. Now, these are the products under recall, all with a February 4th sell-by date. They may contain trace amounts of metal dust or gray material. Customers can return the products for a full refund. The FBI says it has dismantled scam call centers in India, accused of stealing nearly $50 million from unsuspecting victims here in the United States. The victims received an email claiming to be from the Social Security Administration, telling them their security numbers were suspended due to criminal activity.
I was so scared. I sent my life-saving money to those people.
Unsolicited calls. Government doesn't call you on the phone. The FBI is not going to call you.
We can tell you that federal investigators have secured 10 indictments in these scams, many of them couriers or mules who were used to pick up gold bars from victims who thought they were working with the feds to protect their investments. A holiday pop-up that only lasted one season in St. Louis is filing for bankruptcy. According to our partners at the St. Louis Business Journal, the company behind Jingle filed for bankruptcy last week. The holiday pop-up had a disastrous opening in December of 2024. Several people were injured at the attraction, including a woman who broke her leg. Several others filed complaints with the Attorney General's office, saying the experience was more expensive than advertised. Right now, wholesale retailer Costco is involved in a class action lawsuit centered around their famous rotisserie chickens. These meals are advertised as preservative-free, but a California court filed the suit claiming the chickens contain sodium phosphate and carrageenan. Costco says those ingredients are used to keep the chicken moist, but they have since removed the labeling about preservatives. And speaking of chicken, a brand new chicken chain is coming to St. Louis. According to our partners at the St. Louis Business Journal, Zaxby's is signing a franchise deal to open 7 locations in St. Louis, Columbia, and Missouri. I should say Columbia, Missouri. Last year, they announced that they plan to open as many as 20 stores in the region, and the Atlanta-based restaurant chain has chicken fingers, wings, salads, and sandwiches. A California woman is sounding the alarm after her child overdosed on a GLP-1 medication and there was very little that doctors could do. The 7-year-old said she used the injectable to help her upset stomach. Within hours, she began vomiting and growing dangerously weak. Poison Control told her mother there was little that doctors could do other than wait.
I didn't really think wisely. I thought it was stomach medicine because my mom takes it and I thought it helps her with her stomach aches.
Now, the girl did make a full recovery, as you saw her just there. California Poison Control reports overdose calls involving GLP-1 drugs have more than tripled since 2021. Most cases involve adults unintentionally taking too much of the drug. We are officially in tax season, which means that you can start filling out your returns right now. So the big headline has been that people may be getting a bigger return this year because of some changes. Joining me now is Jeff Sachs from Sachs Financial with tax moves to make this month. Oh, well, thanks for being here. Let's talk about the one big beautiful bill. What changed?
Yep.
And what benefits help taxpayers this year?
So there's a couple things that changed. We talked about a few of these in December last year. The biggest change is that our tax brackets have been locked in. So we know where they're going to be for the foreseeable future. That's a great thing, gives us some stability. Okay. It also increased the tax brackets to keep up with inflation and people getting raises so that you're not getting bumped up into a new a higher tax bracket. But the big changes are they added some more deductions. So if you are somebody that works primarily gets a lot of income through tips, you can now deduct that as an additional deduction, $12,000 to $25,000, depending on how you file. And if you have overtime, you can deduct some of that as well. There's a third one, and this is specifically for folks that are over the age of 65.
Okay.
And adds an additional tax deduction. Single filers of $6,000, married filing jointly is $12,000 on top of the standard deduction. So if you're over the age of 65, your standard deduction is pretty high, almost $40,000 of your income just off the top.
Oh, wow. Okay. What are some moves, though, that people need to do now before we get to that April deadline if they want to maybe lower their tax bill, reduce their taxes? What do you think?
Well, the first thing I would tell you is don't procrastinate. Okay. I actually was looking up some numbers and I thought, gosh, there must be a ton of us that wait until April 15th to file. I just remember like as a kid getting in the station wagon and rushing off to like the post office, you know, and dropping it in there. So it turns out that only about 25% of people wait till April to file their taxes. So I would tell you prepare now.
Okay.
The IRS recommends that you take your statements, you're getting your 1099s, your W-2s, your forms from the banks and your investments. Get all of that together so that you're ready to file to take it to the person that does your taxes or if you do it yourself.
Okay.
That's the first thing that I would do. And I wouldn't procrastinate.
Okay. So when do you get your taxes done? Just curious.
As soon as possible.
Really?
Not soon enough.
Okay.
I like to get them done probably in March. We have sometimes some investments take an extra month or so to do some reconciliation before they get their final their tax forms out to us.
What about some folks, and not to put you on the spot, but some folks might not get their, if they do like 1099 work or something, they won't get their tax returns until way late, it seems like. Or if you get an extra one where you're like, oh, I already filed my taxes, what do I do?
Well, so first thing I would tell you is that if you are going to take a file late and not get your returns in, make sure that if you owe any money that you do make a tentative payment to avoid any taxes or penalties. It's okay to file an extension as long as you get that paperwork in. You can get a 6-month extension to give you that time. And a lot of people do that, and there's no negative for having that extension. Just make sure that if you owe any money, that you get that some sort of payment in.
Okay, any practical steps that we can avoid, to avoid headaches down the road?
There's a couple of things. I mean, I would definitely look at what your deductions, what your withholding is from your paycheck. I think it's a great thing to do right now as you're looking at your income for tax purposes. If it turns out that you owe a lot of money because you didn't take enough deductions, now's a great time to make that change for this year for next year's filing. So
we can make the withholding changes now?
You can, absolutely. And another thing to note, the state of Missouri has been lowering the state tax for a while. It was at 5%, so in our office we have a lot of clients that started taking 5% out. This year, it's down to a flat 4%. So if you haven't changed that deduction, you should.
Okay, gotcha. Anything else that we should know, maybe with retirees, seniors, deadlines?
The biggest deadline, tax filing season opened on the 26th of January. You got to get it in by the 15th or file an extension. And things that I would talk to folks that are closer to retirement about is some additional tax planning, is looking at what contributions you're making, how much you have in your IRA, how much required minimum distributions you might have to take out in the future.
Okay, but overall, you think these changes are positive?
I do.
Net positive.
I do. I think it's a positive because it makes filing easier. One last thing that I forgot to mention. If you have the ability, make an IRA contribution. It helps reduce your taxes. This year, if you're over the age of 50, you can do an $8,000 tax contribution to your IRA, which could, if you're in, let's say, the 12% tax bracket, it could lower your taxes by almost $1,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's some money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But in general, going back, you think that overall, the changes are positive?
I do. I think it's great to know that we have stability in our tax code. I think it's great that the standard deduction is so high. It makes it easier for you to file your taxes so that you don't have to track the receipts and write down all your deductions because that number is so large. I think it makes it easier for people to file.
Okay, great. And if people want more information, they can find you at sexfinancial.com. Where else?
And retiresafestl.com.
Okay. Jeff, thank you so much. Yep. We'll have you back in a couple weeks.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, experts say consumers are expected to spend more on their Super Bowl parties this weekend. Karen Kafa takes a look at what prices are up and what's going down at the grocery store before the big game.
Football fans hosting family and friends for Sunday's big game will pay a little bit more overall for snacks than last year. The Wells Fargo Agri-Food Institute crunched the numbers on a spread for a party of 10. They found it will cost about $140, up 1.6% from 2025. Wells Fargo Food and Agriculture Chief Economist Michael Swanson says some fan favorites are trending lower.
Chicken wings got less expensive thanks to more supply. Avocados are down about 2.5% as well. Nachos are down, the chips are down.
Some proteins, Swanson says, have pushed higher, like shrimp.
We import most of the shrimp that we eat from a bunch of countries like India, Vietnam, Thailand, and it was kind of really low pricing last year, so it's bounced back. So up about 8% from a year ago.
And Stu Leonard Jr., president and CEO of the Stu Leonard supermarket chain, says sliders may be the best option for burgers because beef prices are still elevated.
Beef market is still a little bit high. It's a little tense out in the market, but that's a supply and demand issue.
Wells Fargo also found some fresh vegetables trending higher. Cherry tomatoes, celery, and cauliflower up between 2% and 4%. But there's better news for cheese lovers.
You can't have a Super Bowl party without a big cheese platter right here, okay?
Dairy prices have been falling, Leonard says, lowering the cost of that cheese platter. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
With less than 2 weeks away until Valentine's Day, a popular website is showing some love to a St. Louis favorite. Open Table is naming Charlie Guido's on the Hill as one of its top 100 romantic restaurants for 2026. It is the only Missouri restaurant on the list. The online reservation service says the local landmark offers an authentic Italian dining experience with a warm and elegant ambiance. All right, if you want to go a little, a quicker route, you can order a hot honey pizza at Emo's. It's called the Honey Trap. The pizza is topped with pepperoni and then drizzled with Mike's Extra Hot Honey. Now, Emo's, if you know, usually puts the pepperoni under the cheese, but a spokesperson says putting it on top of the cheese allows it to crisp up and curl. The Honey Trap pizza is available at all 98 Emo's locations. I'm hungry now. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks so much for watching Michelle on the Money. For more money stories like these, be sure to join me every day on Today in St. Louis starting at 5 a.m. We'll see you again right here on the 5 Plus app next weekend.